Welcome to the Engineering Seed podcast.
So I grew up out in the western suburbs.
Yep.
Pretty much just from as young as I can remember, I was out in the Hawkesbury area, which is a pretty remote little area in space. Most people don't know where Ebenezer is. If I say it, they're going to be funny. But it's a tiny little park. I grew up on the riverfront, so it's always very active life and a lot of family around me in that area. And it was a beautiful piece of land, and I got really fortunate in that both my neighbours were like kind of rental properties, so they always needed maintenance and things like that. So from a very young age, I was always working with people to actually do jobs. So my first job was like mowing lawns out there, and from that, and then I changed schools. So then I went to St. Mary's Senior. So still out in the west, but I was driving like an hour a day to go and study. And one of the cool things about that school was that they actually had an engineering course. And for year 11 and 12, most students don't have the opportunity to study engineering studies, which is a bit of a shame. But I found a place that would allow me to, and I travelled an hour to go and do this. And that was a big reason as how I ended up getting into engineering. But I remember the very first day that I thought, wow, engineering seems really cool. That's what I want to go to. And it was on the open night, like the open day for the school. I took my dad along, and we were speaking with all the different lecturers or the teachers at the school. And I met Dean Lane, and he was the current teacher. And I was speaking with him, and I was like, what's engineering studies all about? Like, what will we do over the next 2 years? And he pretty much goes, well, have you ever driven down the street and you just look at everything and you just constantly question, how'd they make that? How'd they do that? Because we answer those questions. And from that moment, I went, I'm hooked. This guy seems like a nutbag. I want to study under him for the next 2 years. And from there, I was able to grow. And we had a robotics club at that school, and I ended up running the robotics team. Met some mentors from that, and they pretty much did mechanical and mechatronic engineering. And well, that's what I study now. And that's how I got into engineering.
Yeah, okay. And so you've started this company called Tech Gym, and it sounds like by how you've grown up, you've always been into jobs, been into, I guess, maybe making some money and being entrepreneurial in that sense. Can you give us a background on Tech Gym and how it was formed, why it was formed, and where it is now?
Yeah, of course. So, as you said, always been into the entrepreneurial side. Didn't really know how much until I was going out and I was doing my internship placements as part of my degree, and I realised that I don't want to go work for somebody else all the time. I worked for one fantastic, big, global company, and then the second time I did that, I went, oh, this is a culture shock. Like, this wasn't for me. I really wasn't enjoying it.
And your first internship, that was overseas, I think, wasn't it? Yeah,
correct, it was. So in my second year of uni, I picked myself up and got on a plane to the UK, and I was working for the BMW group. So that was a 6-month placement, and I was working for Mini. So they make 1,000 cars a day at their Oxford plant, and I was a quality management engineer there. So that was a really cool highlight, and the corporate culture in that is what made the environment and made the work so much more entertaining and satisfying at the end of the day for me.
And your second one then obviously wasn't as good. You felt like jobs in corporate life could be almost luck of the draw on sort of the environment and just what it's like there.
Yeah, it very much was so. I kind of fell into that role. I got offered a scholarship through the university, and it was with Thales, which is a fantastic company to go and work for. The engineering they do there is phenomenal, but it was such a different culture change when I actually got into there. It was very much more corporate style, and it was a 9-to-5 grind, and it wasn't really as flexible, which is a little bit more old school, which suits a lot of people. But I was finding that way of working didn't actually suit me personally. For me, it was working as the typical engineer, dark room, low lights. You don't speak with your colleagues, must just head down and pump out your work. I just want to chat all day. I want to bounce ideas off. I want to come up with new innovations and work as a team to actually get there. And within the particular department that I was at, I wasn't achieving that. So one of the ideas that I had was, why don't I do my own internships on my own startup? And throughout that period, I was doing night times and playing around with the starting of Tech Gym. And that's where I was like, what do I do here? Do I bounce into my startup life and follow that kind of realm, take a bit of a risk, or do I do the norm? And I'm too different and weird to do the norm.
So when did you start that in the progression of your university degree then?
Yeah, so Tech Gym?
Yep.
Or the Talus?
Tech Gym.
Tech Gym. So Tech Gym started out of a summer project at university.
Yep.
So doing the 6-week summer studio, and I was working with a few other people in a class, and we built up a prototype. And that was at the end of 2017 and into the starting of 2018. And out of that, we had a bit of a prototype and a bit of an idea. I was like, this is kind of cool. Maybe we can go somewhere with this. And the university backed us. They said, this is actually really cool. We want you to go represent UTS at a international pitching competition for university startups. And I had a co-founder at the time, Thera Morgan, amazing, and it was going great. And we went across to this competition, and I was working with Talus at the time, and I took a couple of weeks off to go across to Virginia Tech, and the night before the competition, I realised this environment, the ecosystem of entrepreneurship, innovation, and startups is me. I was thriving. I went from falling asleep at work to just not sleeping at night because my mind is racing. And I quit that night before the competition.
Wow.
And I just sent my resignation into Talus and went, sorry, not coming back. I'm going to stay in the US for an extra couple of weeks. I'm going to explore this market and see what it's like.
Wow.
My deepest apologies. I am sincerely sorry, but I'm having too much fun in this world, and this is what I'm passionate about. So that was August last year that I decided I'm going to go full-time on Tech Gym.
Fantastic. And so can you give us a bit of context about what Tech Gym does and what sort of market they're serving?
Yeah, of course. So we're a medical device startup company, and what Tech Gym is doing is innovating rehabilitation by using intelligent robotics. So what we have is a working prototype for upper limb stroke rehabilitation currently, and it physically supports the patient throughout their exercises. Now this is important because physiotherapists currently in the hospital, they've got to manhandle patients. They've got to move that patient's body around, and it's really exhausting, and they actually end up getting injured. For the patients, they don't normally get a lot of access to that therapist because that person's got to run around and treat so many people per day. So we allow patients to get greater access to the therapy, get high levels of care, and when that happens, they return home faster and with a higher level of independence.
Fantastic. And so where Tech Gym's at now, you went over to US, you said, to pitch the idea. Did anything come of that? Or are there any sort of pitching been happening in Australia where you've been getting investors on board?
Yeah, so we've had a very action-packed year and a half since we kind of dove into the company, and since last August we went to the Virginia Tech Comp. We didn't win it, but I'd won in my eyes. I quit my job and I decided this is what I want to do, and then we came back to Australia and I had all this energy, and I was like, okay, let's go find what's next. Like, what do you do next? I came back and I spoke with the execs of our university's faculty and said, well, let me do my own startup as my internship. So that gave me 6 months of full-time opportunity to put in all my time and effort to the company. What I did next was walk down to UTS startups, bang on their door and go, help me. What do I do next? I've got all this energy, I've got this momentum, what do I do? And they booked me in for mentoring sessions with the entrepreneurs in residence, and I was speaking with Alan Jones, not the radio host, the young entrepreneur, and I sat down and he goes, well, what's your biggest problem right now? I explained it, we brainstormed back out, and we came up with a strategy on 3 things that I needed to do next. And it was pretty much market research. Get out, test your idea, go make sure that you've got all your assumptions of the problem space correct, and then come back and make sure that you're nailing that in your company. Go and build those things that people actually want. And that was a big process. So we spent a few months doing that. From there, we realized, okay, we got some traction. We know what we want to do. Now we need the help to build it. So we started applying for accelerator programs, which an accelerator program is pretty much like doing an MBA in a very short period of time, 3 or 6 months, and becoming an expert on a very niche part of your market and how to scale your company and grow it. So we applied to a lot of rejection letters, a lot of pitching, a lot of going to interviews and one night things where you got 1 minute to pitch your whole company and get into their program. You're like, this is crazy. And I need 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but you've got to learn the art of pitching and being able to sell an elevator idea. which is quite good fun. Eventually, we got offered a position into the Actuator, which is a program down in Melbourne. And it's fantastic because it actually worked really nicely for medical device companies. That's what they specialize in.
Right.
So we just fit the mark perfectly. They're backed by Artesian, which is a venture capitalist, the biggest venture capitalist fund in Australia, I'm pretty sure. So in good hands there with investors.
Yeah.
So we've got a small amount of pre-seed funding from there. The really interesting part, though, is once we got to that point, Theranisha and I had to sit and look down and go, what we're about to sign up for is a 5-year commitment. Do we want to do that? And that's where Nisha actually decided she was going to step down as a co-founder and that she wanted to go and explore the other life, which was completely fine. There was a lot of discussion around that. So that was a very interesting point.
And so you've got the same team as you did the studio with in 2018?
No, everything's completely changed.
Okay.
Completely changed. So the studio is done with a large range of students across the engineering faculty in many different years. And that was just every student kind of building up their own prototypes, and we all worked together. Nisha and I came out of that and decided, let's team up. We worked really well together, and let's start Tech Gym. But since then, Nisha has unfortunately left and moved on to a normal corporate life where it pays real money, not startup salaries, which I completely understand, and she's excelling in that space. Since then, I've recruited industrial design and product design people, other robotic engineers, business-minded people. I'm in the final process of hiring a business developer. My next person I'm about to hire is a physiotherapist. We've got some great ideas on how we can use them in our team. And then it's built out the mentors. So the mentors are a big part of the team as well.
Yeah, okay. And so I guess to get from last year to where you are now with and doing market research and things like that, what sort of skills did you need to develop in that time, apart from the MBA accelerator, to sort of work well with what you're doing?
The biggest skill that I use on a day-to-day basis now is project management.
Okay.
My day is so split between 9 to 5 p.m, helping the rest of my team function and enabling my team to get the most out of them. Post 5 p.m, it's my own time. I get to complete my own tasks, and throughout the day I get little snippets of it too. But a big part of what we do is make sure that everybody's functioning, all the cogs are still spinning and turning at the best efficiency. And learning how to manage a team of so many people is quite difficult. It takes experience. It's all it does. It's just, you need to fail and just go, okay, look, today we didn't really function very well. I'm really sorry about that. Tomorrow, what do we do differently? And then learning those skills to make sure that you get the most out of each individual person. That's been something that I've spent the last, probably this last 6 months really failing at, but learning the most at. And that's great fun. But it's a skill that I've really had to hone into. Thankfully, our engineering degrees train us a little bit as project managers, so it helps. Outside of that, though, it really was my communication skills, my transferable skills, where I can go in to any event, any networking night, and communicate my idea to a wide range of people. So one of the first courses and the best courses that I ever did in my development for the skills I need for Tech Gym was a course called the Neuroscience of Confidence, Nailing Your Pitch. Now, pitching is just one aspect of the business. I do it almost monthly though. I did it to you this morning, I did it to you now. You've got to be able to do a 1-minute pitch, a 2-minute pitch, 3 minutes, half an hour long conversation just on what your company does and how it does it well. And learning how to articulate that so that everybody in the room can understand it, and also being able to tell the story to support it, is an art form. It's taking me a long time to get there. But this course that I went and did, what it taught me to do was how to structure my thoughts and how to actually get up on stage and have the right confidence so people will back me. And the best representation of when that's worked is when we got into the accelerator program. Because we're backed by a venture capitalist fund. They want to see a serious team, right? 80% of the decision making on bringing us into the accelerator program isn't about the technology we build. We built some amazing medical device technology, but 80% of their decision was based on myself and Theranisha, who we are, what we stood for, why we're in this company, and why we wanted to be a part of this. So learning how to actually portray that was really hard, because as an engineer, it's not something we do on a daily basis. It's definitely not what we do in a technical report and we're explaining how we've calculated the pulley ratio and this is the right mathematics and this won't fail because it's this safe. It's a completely different conversation. So So learning how to articulate well was one of the best skills I've ever learned, and it's opened every door to every new skill I've needed.
Yeah, fantastic. And so currently you've got employees working for you now. How many employees do you have?
So I've got Joshua Shalita, Mindang, Abdu, Mukala, can I say his last name? They're all internal. I've got a game developer guy that's contracting at the moment, doing 6 weeks of game development work. His name's Luke Turner, so that's 4. And I'm currently hiring a business developer at the moment. And then on the lookout for a physiotherapist as well soon. So about 5, and then myself.
Yeah. So you're in development stage then of the company, trying to develop the products and market and things like that?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So we're currently, as a medical device, we've not built a medical device yet. We've not built it to quality management standards. There's so many proceedings you need to do in that pathway. So what we're building first is our alpha prototype. Something that we can have a lot of confidence. It's not going to look like the final product, but it's just a one-off piece. And we're very close. We're 2 weeks off presenting that to the world and being able to go to hospitals, wheel it in and just go, this is it. Let's use it with your clinician. Let's use it with your patients and see how well it works, how well it meets our market research and all those problems that we found and what we assumed were your problems. How well are we actually addressing that right now? And then we're going to take all those lessons learned and apply that to the medical device version so that we can test it at a clinical trial and make claims and get all this evidence next.
So you're actually building it from scratch?
Yeah, for the most part. We leverage a lot of off-the-shelf technology though. So what Tech Gym does and why we're unique from our competitors, say as Hokoma, they're the global leader in robotic rehabilitation. They build all their technology from scratch. We use a series of off-the-shelf hardware and we deliver a software solution to bring them all together. It's fantastic because a lot of those products are already at scale. If you look at the economies of scale, these guys sell thousands of robots every single year. So they can actually sell us a robot at a cheaper price than what we would ever be able to build it at in-house. And that's what our competitors do. So their products can cost up to $500,000. And we're looking to have this as an under $100,000 product. So big difference, right? Considering we'll have the same functionality. But then we can deliver it through putting all together the actual hardware together onto one mobile and portable stand so a clinician can move it around the hospital. So a lot of our IP and our specialties lie in the software, but we still need to deliver a product that integrates everything together.
Yeah. So I guess, integrating has been one of the... Do you feel like engineering has been a part of the development of the product that you're creating then in the end?
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
For a very long time, for most of this year, probably up until, let's say, the start of August, it was all about business.
Yeah.
Make sure we get the commercial pathway right, and we're about to build a product for the right market. Now that it's down pat and we understand it, it's just turn the heat on, and our team of engineers, we've got 3 engineers in-house now, we can just do what we do best, which is rapid prototyping. And that's...
And what are their sort of degrees or specialties that they're doing?
Yeah, so we all fall into the mechatronic world at some point, but I'm a mechanical and mechatronic engineer, so final year, haven't graduated just yet. Min Dang just graduated as a mechatronic engineer. Josh Shalita is a mechatronic and business degree as well. So there's a lot of the electronic side of things, wiring things up correctly and connecting the right pieces, but a lot of it is now turning into mechanical components and how do we best fit this all together? How do we manufacture it for as cheap as possible, but also as fast as possible? And that's what we've been doing really well.
Yeah. And so the next 3 to 5 years for Tech Gym, what does that look like? Is that creating more products? Is that just delivering this product? What is that? So
short term, 3 years, is on the market in Australia, stroke and general rehabilitation. And that's the next 12 months, actually. And then it's bounced to America. We want to globalize this as quickly as possible and get it into the hands of the people that actually need it, right? So going across to the American market just opens a lot of doors. There's over 6,200 hospitals that they have that we can start selling this into. So to get into that market and just move the device into a world where it's in the hands of patients and clinicians. But as we know, if we look at 5-6 years, that kind of period, there's a big transition coming soon where healthcare is coming to the home. So I believe it's 68% of healthcare is going to be done in the home by 2030. So we need to start innovating our product, miniaturizing it, shrinking it down, making it a non-medical device where possible, So that when you go to that hospital, you've had your shoulder operation or you've had a stroke and you've gone through rehab, you use that device in the hospital, but you take one home with you and you continue your rehabilitation needs there. Once you're done with it, you pass it on to the next person. So that way we're not just helping the thousands of people that might come through a facility in a year, we can actually help the millions or if not billions of people in the at-home market.
Yeah, fantastic. So it sounds like that, there is a lot of engineering actually done in the product, but a lot of your role as well has been more of an oversight project management thing as well. So I guess one of the things that I'm hearing is university is good in some respects, but also we need to take on sort of initiative to sort of explore different educational ways to learn what we need to do. So I guess for people that are listening, what is something that you have learnt going through this process that you look back and you realise that you should have done beforehand? So I guess a skill, whether that's doing your business development course, your managing course, sorry. So what is something that I guess you would have done maybe even in your first year when you're going into university? What is something that you should have done then that you look back on?
There's a few things that come to mind on that, and there's one really big one that's just helped me in the last 12 months personally and on more of a daily level where I can apply my skills, and it's finding mentors. It's a weird concept, and I've really only worked out how to start actually finding the right mentors and leveraging their knowledge to learn everything. I'm still trying to work out how best to utilize it, but what I get out of that is the network of people and real life examples. So I catch up with my old boss from my employment. I catch up with him monthly now, and I just try and sit down and I go, Peter, this is my latest problem, right? Tell me about a time that you were in a similar situation. And I just try and listen and have that person reflect back to me. And they'll tell me all the individual steps they've taken to overcome that. Now, if I think back to maybe, I think it was start of third year, it's probably my first little breakdown at uni. Life was getting really tough, and you just went, gosh, this isn't easy anymore. Like, school was easy. School was for those people that are fortunate enough to be naturally gifted. You kind of fall through and you're like, this is great, this is fun. First year's the same. Second year's like, oh, this is getting fun. This is like exciting. And third year hits you and you're like, what do? I need to pay like rent. I pay for my own food. I'm living out of home now. I've got to try and meet up with all my assignments. And I remember breaking down and going, I can't stay in this job. I can't work 2 days on the weekend, study 5 days a week. What do you do in that scenario? And I wish that I turned to other people around me, not just my mum and dad, and just complain. I wish I turned to people that went, well, that's just what hard work looks like. And this is how you actually manage your time better to achieve that. And it took me an extra 2 years since that point to work out how to do it. But how I do it really quickly now is I'm constantly, as soon as I get a problem, I flag it to one of my mentors in my group. And I surround myself with people that have been there, done that. They don't laugh at you and be like, oh, Rowan, like, you don't even know. It's not that bad. Take a breath. Like, the support network is something that everybody tells you it's important to have, but they never tell you how to get one or what that looks like. Yeah,
so it's your mentors and the people that you've worked with that you've found in university as well, maybe. Is that, I guess, how you went about getting them?
Yes, my first mentors were my favourite lecturers and then now my capstone supervisor. So for, say, Mark Carmichael, for example, he was somebody that I loved as a lecturer. He then taught the class that gave me the prototype for Tech Gym. And then I've always kept this relationship, and from a technical level, he's the person that I go to. And that's where I started understanding the importance of being able to walk down one flight of stairs, tap on the door and just go, hey man, help me out, like what's going on? I realised how fast that makes things work. I then got into the accelerator program and went through other programs through CSIRO, and I got paired with mentors. And you would do catch-up sessions, just coffees, chat, sit down for an hour, and they would ask you the hard-hitting questions because they know what's happening internally. So they would ask me these questions and I went, maybe I should be flipping and going to them with these questions instead of waiting for them to ask me. And that's when it flips. So going into programs and taking new opportunities is how I find all these people. And it's my second bit of advice, actually. The second thing I wish I did from an earlier point in time was go to weekend boot camps. Yep. It's this new trend. They'll run hackathons, or it's like a training seminar for a day, something you're passionate about. Jump online, type it into Google, type in your weekend dates, and see who's running an event on it that weekend. UTS Startups runs one every couple of weeks, once a month there's some sort of event on.
Yeah. And
you get to work in a room full of common minds and common interests to what you're working on. And you just grow your network from there and just go, wow, you're the exact same person. We get along so well. You're not a friend necessarily. I wouldn't catch up with you every week, but you're somebody that I'd love to sit down and just talk about a particular topic for an hour.
Yep.
You mentally understand how I'm feeling, or you resonate with a topic that I know nothing about.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Wow. So I guess what I'm hearing is that we're talking about practical skills that we're sort of developing on the weekend, tangible, real life, real solution sort of way of learning as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. It's go out and put yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone to start with, and make it always skill orientated.
Yeah.
So the pitching training event that I went to, that started off as a lunchtime 1 hour session.
Yeah.
To run down in your lunch break, get the quick little teaser of it, and I went, this is great. The presenter's awesome. I signed up as $100 for a whole Saturday course. It starts at 7 a.m. in the morning and went through to the evening. It was this big 1-day workshop. And the whole day was just pushing you to get out of your comfort zone, try new things in a room full of people that want to do it too.
Yeah.
And it taught me so much, and I met so many people, and I still catch up with the presenter from time to time and run into them and go, thank you so much. That skills helped me so much. But it's also down to going to events that just make you think. So hackathons are a really great way to just make you think. There might not be new skills. You might just go and just do something you're really good at, but it's solve this problem. And you've got to come up with ideas and just get your brain ticking.
Yes.
And you really open yourself up to opportunities earlier. And the big benefit though is if you start doing that early, you can pave your own pathway easier throughout your degree. And if you're trying to understand, I don't want to be an engineer, what do I actually want to do? You can go work that out. Or what kind of engineer do I want to be? Because to be an engineer now it's a whole spectrum, which is exciting, but it's scary as hell to work out which one of those things I want to do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How can people follow Tech Gym's progression? Where can we find you?
Yeah, jump on socials. So LinkedIn is my favorite for the company side of things. We do have a Facebook page as well. So if you just search in Tech Gym Rehab onto either one of those, you 100% always find us. Jump on my LinkedIn as well and follow me personally. It's Rowan Smith, ROWAN.
Yep.
I post a lot of my own personal successes on there and the things that I do to develop myself for Tech Gym. I love sharing my story and getting it out there because when you can connect with so many people and resonate with them, it really makes a big impact on how they want to help you. So,
is that something that resonates with you personally as well? The reason behind starting Tech Gym?
Oh, 100%. Everything comes down to a why. We're talking about this just before the start of the podcast, and everything starts with why. If you haven't seen anything by Simon Sinek, you need to look him up and search for that. But for me, it was my nan's rehabilitation. So my nan had a stroke at the end of 2017, and I watched that journey. I watched the struggles of both my nan going through it and also the therapist, and went, this is not fun. This is a really harsh environment. It doesn't look enjoyable for anybody. People are overworked. Patients aren't getting the care that they need all the time. Something's got to give. What can we do in this space? And that's where I felt really inspired to go, well, why don't I do something? There's 1,000 things I could do. This is why I became an engineer. It's to make real world impacts through technology. And this looks like a great opportunity. Let's look into it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that keeps me going. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, that would have been... So it sounds like you were doing that as well while she was unwell as well, which would have been very sort of maybe heart-wrenching or something like that. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Well, thanks so much for your time, Rowan. This has been fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers.